Welcome to the Studio Chat podcast, the podcast designed to be your companion in the journey of self-discovery. I'm Barbara Thompson, your host and a dedicated therapist. I'm the founder and owner of Self-Care Studio, a private counselling practice. With my clients and courses that I create on this podcast, I'm committed to ensuring that you have the support that you need. I created this podcast as a space for you to feel a sense of connection and a reminder that you're not alone in this thing that we call life, this adventure. This podcast is your weekly reminder to trust yourself, live life authentically, and embrace the path that is uniquely yours. Together, we'll explore ways to break free from people-pleasing, overthinking, allowing you to claim your time and energy to live life on your terms. You'll be joined by myself as I take you through some episodes, or during the year I'll have some special self-care experts as guests on my podcast. So if you're ready to step into a life that's truly for you, join me on this journey. Let's navigate the twists and turns of life together, and more importantly, live your life for you. So thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me today. Let the studio chat begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Studio Chat podcast. It's so nice to have you here. I'm the host, Barbara Thompson, and today I'm speaking with Emma, and we're going to talk about something that I think you guys are going to find really helpful and get a lot out of it, because at the moment there's a lot of things about healthy lifestyle, toxins, additives, and I think it can be quite overwhelming. Like, even I've studied nutrition and stuff, and I think wherever you are, whether you know a little bit or you know a lot, it still can be really overwhelming. And so today we're going to talk about gradual steps to an additive-free and low-tox life with Emma. And she has a business called Em.proved, which I absolutely love that name. So first of all, Emma, welcome to the Studio Chat podcast.
Oh, thanks, Barbara. Thanks for having me.
It's so nice. Yeah, it's really nice to have you here. And you're from, am I going to pronounce this right? Wagga Wagga?
Oh, well done. You didn't say wagga wagga.
I can say wagga wagga, but I still feel weird saying wagga wagga. I'm like, have I pronounced that correctly?
You did, wagga wagga. Yep. And you have to go through gumly to get to wagga wagga.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and you are, where is, for anyone listening, because I have people listening from all around the world, where is Wagga Wagga?
So Wagga Wagga is in the Riverina, so it's in New South Wales, and it's your biggest inland city, and it sits basically between Sydney and Melbourne. So we're quite a popular destination because you can have an hour's flight from Wagga to Sydney and an hour's flight to Melbourne. So so we're in the Riverina.
Yeah, you're right in the middle. So before we go any further, I'd love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what's inspired you to head on this journey towards an additive-free and low-tox life.
So my journey started, I think it was about 7 years ago, and it was due to our second child had eczema all over her body. And I finally got an appointment to a skin specialist that took months to get into, and he was an older doctor. And I remember sitting there and he was asking me about the food that we were eating. And it's like, why are you asking me about this? I just need it fixed. And he kept on saying, all right, you're doing a great job, because I would stew the veggies, I would stew the fruit, I would make jelly and homemade custard from scratch and things like that. And at the end of the appointment, he just said to me, you're doing a great job, but some of those ingredients is actually causing the eczema. And if you flip over their packet and you read the back of the packet and you don't understand anything in it, look into it or just avoid it. And then he gave me a few little things to avoid. And then he said to me, so if you do this for 3 months, and he said, I don't think I'll see you. If you take those out of her diet, I won't see you. But if I do, we'll look further into it. Well, I walked out of there so cranky, thinking, I have just wasted all this money. He's telling me that the food that I'm giving my child is the cause of it. This is ridiculous, and didn't think anything of it at all. Like, literally put it at the back of my mind and just ignored it. And then I don't even know how long after, our other child almost took her last breath of life due to a asthma attack. And I still remember sitting in hospital, and do you know how sometimes something just triggers in your mind and you go, wonder when I went to that skin specialist, wonder if asthma and eczema have a link to food. And I was sitting in the hospital and they brought out jelly and they brought out custard. And I had a look at the packet and I had a look at the ingredients. And the custard had a number 102. And the jelly, I kind of remember, it probably had a 129 number, which is a red color. And I had a look at that and I thought, wonder what that is. And that was where my journey started. I just went down and looked at the ingredients and I flipped over absolutely everything in it. So this skin specialist was actually correct. He was spot on. And I started taking out these ingredients from our diet. And then the food started into the body care products, because a lot of the body care products can trigger eczema and asthma. So I went into that. Then I got really interested and I studied with Food Matters Institute.
Same. I've done the same. I was in the same. Oh, I didn't even know that about each other. I did their same. I'm that excited I can't talk. I did their Food Matters first intake. So when James and Laurentine first did I was in the first group.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I now I'm trying to think when I actually finished my intake. But yeah, so I studied Food Matters, watched the documentaries and everything else. And so then went into starting up my own business, selling low tox products, and yeah, that's how my journey started.
And educating people. Thank you for being so honest as a parent, actually going into an appointment like that and actually walking out, because you could have easily skipped that part out of this and gone, yeah, I went and saw the specialist and he said this and I ran with it. But you were actually really honest and said, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Actually, you're this old dude. What do you know? Because a lot of people, we don't know what we don't know, and we don't realize, honestly, how much is in our food and what it affects us. And when you take it back to the biological effects, you think about it. I talk about this a lot with my clients in my private practice. Our brains and our bodies are exactly the same as they were hundreds and, I don't know, I'm not a mathematical person, but I always say millions and trillions of years ago. Like, our body hasn't had an upgrade. And I want everyone to think about this for a moment. Everything that you're eating and drinking today, was that around in like the caveman days? I know I'm really simplifying this, but that's all our body recognizes is the caveman style. If we were around in those days, what they were doing and how they lived and what they were eating is what our bodies naturally know how to do. Anything else on top of that creates, that's why disease, when you break it down, is it's ease. There's something that's not right, something that's not in balance.
Yep.
And isn't it interesting that the universe was trying to get your attention? What was served was what you spoke to the specialist about. Like, you actually just said, I made my own jelly and made my own custard. And then what was getting served to your child? Jelly and custard. Like, there's some synchronicities in there, isn't there?
Yep. Yeah. And you are correct. Like, we aren't eating like we used to, unfortunately. And our food has changed. So, like, in my education, I just try to explain, okay, not everybody's going to know what a number means on the back of the packet. Not everybody's going to know what the big words mean when they read it, like hydrolyzed protein, whatever. Like, you're not going to know what it is. But if you can't turn around in that supermarket and go, okay, I'm going to get a natto off the shelf. If you can't get that, it doesn't need to be in your body. So it's as simple as that. If you don't understand what that ingredient is, it doesn't need to be there at all.
Yeah.
Because our cakes, like a simple butter cake, is 5 ingredients. And I know people are time poor. I understand that. We're all busy. We're all working. But in turn, the ingredients have changed and we need to go back to the bare basics.
I love that you brought up ingredients have changed, because you think about it, if you're talking to your grandmother or to someone that's probably a few generations back, and you say, oh, I can't eat gluten, or I can't eat this, and you hear a family member or someone go, don't be silly, I had it in my day. Well, there is some truth to that. So in the 80s or before the 80s, gluten and wheat and dairy was completely different to what it was today, what it is today. So there is some truth that when your grandparents or your great grandparents actually say, you're being silly, you're being stupid, eat whatever, don't cut anything out. I ate flour, I ate this. They did, and it was okay then, because it wasn't made like, especially with wheat, how when I did that course, interested to see if it was something that hit you, was when I found out what glyphosate was and how they get the biggest yield out of wheat now to make it thicker and for farmers to make more money, is glyphosate. For anyone listening, if you haven't heard of what that is Roundup, and that is basically sprayed on like wheat. And when I read that, I went, wow, okay. And it was just so interesting. Did you find that kind of like aha moment?
Well, I follow Cindy O'Meara, and I watched her document. I think it's actually called "What's in Your Wheat" or "What's in Wheat." She's done a document, and it heavily talks about the science about glyphosate, what it does to your body, how it can break through your brain cell barriers and things like that. Anyway, so I watched that. So when I saw it in Food Matters, the course, it was like, oh, yes, I do know about that. But the sad thing is that in America, there's so many court cases going on about Roundup, and it's barred in your domestic kind of places. So you can't walk into Walmart and buy Roundup anymore. It's barred. So, but we can still do it here. We can walk into Bunnings and still get it. And unfortunately, Roundup is heavily linked to cancer. So, and it's been sprayed on our wheat.
Yeah, and this stuff scares people a little bit. We're not into scaring people. We're not into all or nothing living. I think it's just today our chat together is about educating people, and then you've got the power to decide what you want to do. I think your turning moment when your child was in hospital having asthma and you saw the jelly and custard, and was that your like line in the sand moment where you were like, nah, enough, I'm going to really investigate this?
Yes, yep, it was. That was my line in the sand. It was like, okay, there's something in these ingredients. And yeah, that was definitely my changing point.
And for anyone that's new to this, because there's so much BS out there, and this is why we want to talk about and be real on here, because it's so confusing to so many people that they just switch off to it, because there's so much conflicting. 1 minute someone says tomatoes is good, tomatoes is bad, gluten's good, gluten's bad. I want anyone listening to this, is there's a word called bioindividuality, and I think it's really important that the information we talk about today, I believe it's for all humans, but also you've got to take your own basis, your own genetics, your epigenetics, your age, your lifestyle, everything, because we're all different. And that's why I can eat a tomato, and actually I can't eat tomatoes anymore because last time I have a reaction to high histamine foods. If I'm really stressed and I have a little rash and it came out on my ankle. And it's so interesting because my naturopath gets the same histamine rash, but she gets it on her back. And it's just like a little red rash. And at the same time, when I looked back and looked at what I was eating, I was having cinnamon sprinkled on apple, and I was having tomatoes. And then I was like, I've got this really itchy rash. And I actually thought I was bitten, obviously being in Australia, I thought I was bitten by something when I was hanging out the washing. So I was itching it on my ankle going, oh, I've been bitten by something. And then after about the first week, it was still there. And I was like, And then I went and had a look, and I was like, actually, I've been eating a lot of I love tomatoes and I love cinnamon. And I was like, actually, I'm eating a lot of those. And then when I cut them out, it went.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I mean. Sometimes it's not the bad food or whatever we want to determine. It can be things that we've been educated as being good. But anyway, let me get back to this. I'd love to ask you, for anyone that's new to all of this, could you explain to us like what we mean by additives and what we mean by a low tox lifestyle?
So what I see additives being is I've seen them as ingredients that can potentially add, I guess, flavor to food. It could be nutrients that may be lost in the process of that food being made that we need to add back in, vitamins and things like that, which aren't the natural source that the food initially started with. It could be making the food sweeter, so we've got an additive into that. It could be extending the shelf life so we have preservatives that extend the shelf life of food. And so low tox, I guess, to me means just reducing the chemicals that you are exposed to. So the chemicals that we're putting into our body, onto our body, and around our body. And that's what a low tox is, because we live in a world that you can't be no additive, you can't be fully low tox world. It is, if anyone is out there that it does live that, I would like to know how they do it because it is hard. It really is hard. So that's how I would describe what additives and low tox is.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. What do you think are some misconceptions of people when they hear about people start talking about additives and living healthy and cutting out all the chemicals in your life? What are some misconceptions that you've come across?
Well, you mentioned one before. It's like that wouldn't be the case. We ate it when we were younger. Yeah, our food, there's nothing wrong with our food because it's been around for years and things like that. That is one, and it's a big one because I get it all the time. Another one is the expense of it. Like a lot of people think that living a low tox, whatever you want to call it, like a wellness life, a healthy life, whatever you want it to be, people think that it's expensive. And there are areas that it could be, but I don't find it expensive at all. Like I am lucky that I like to cook. So a lot of my food is prepped at night time and things like that. I know we live in a life that it is hard, but I think there was a poll done not very long ago that literally 90% of the food that's out there can actually be a better option. So it's maybe just swapping a simple one packet of biscuits that's full of additives to a cleaner version. So you still get the packet, but in turn, it's not expensive. It's definitely cheaper. So they're the main ones that I get. It's too expensive, and that can't be right because that wouldn't be in our food.
Yeah, exactly. Why, if it was that bad, why is it on the market? Why are people selling it?
Mm-hmm.
I think something else I'd like to kind of mention in this episode is that we're not talking about being good or bad or being perfect. I want you to really take note of what you're eating and how you feel 2 or 3 hours after, and then the next day. So how your digestion is, but also like anything skin related, dry skin, rashes, and like you said, asthma, anything that's health related can have a direct link back to food. And so people listening to this, we're not trying to go cut everything out or be good or bad. I want you to take this on board as yourself, as an individual. And how does, like I said, I have a swelling reaction to spinach and pumpkin sometimes, which is nuts because it's health, like it's, Demon's supposed to be good for you. So if you see these influencers or you see people online eating these green smoothies or having bone broth or having whatever, and you have it and you feel yuck afterwards, or you have acid reflux, or you have digestive issues, or like me, breakout in rashes or swelling in the eye, your body's trying to tell you something. So yes, it's a good food, but it's just not good for you and good for you right now.
Yes, yeah. And it all comes back to the gut as well. Like if we clear the gut up, most of those symptoms will disappear. And like you're saying with histamine, it's a prime example. A lot of people talk about bone broth and having bone broth to clear the gut to help you out. That is a fantastic source of vitamins and everything else that you need for your body that you will help. But if you have a histamine problem, bone broth is no good
No.
until you clear your stomach, until you help out inside first. So you've got to go to slow cooked meats, like very slow, only so and yeah, that's another thing. It depends on your body. And this is just information because we are talking like at the moment low tox and we're talking additives, but that's just not all of our life as well. Like there's more to it. There's getting outside in the sunshine, for example. Like wellness is a great big ball of things that you need to do to your body to help it out. It's just not reducing what we're eating and reducing what we're putting in on and around our bodies. It's the whole package that you've got to think of.
Mm. And stress is just a whole nother thing, which
Uh-huh.
which you and I can talk about on another podcast on another day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yep. And that's the thing. Like there's so much more to it that we have to look at.
Yeah, that's right. And you advocate for gradual steps. That's something that you really stand for is towards this lifestyle. It's slow steps and gradual steps. Can you share with us like an example of something if someone's listening to this that what's an easy first step that someone could take today?
Yep. And like I saw that this to me it's hard because again we've got individual listeners as well. So I know a girlfriend of mine that didn't want to do gradually. She just started learning and she's like, I want this stuff out and I want it out now. So some people actually are built to just, all right, I'm learning it, I want it out. So yes, there are the small steps to take, but in turn, you want to go all in, I reckon all in as well. But small steps, like for example, if you've got young kids, small steps would be, and I know it's not a nice thing to do, but take away the coloured food from the poor kids. And there's other great options out there, like your normal Smarties. I would reduce out of diet because of the colours in it. But I think there's a company called Fun Day that have lollies that are good. So it's making simple swaps that your children aren't going to detest about. Like they're not going to back down and go, well, I'm not eating it unless I have such and such. So I would start with reducing the colours in our diet. I would reduce simple little things like your preservatives, like your sulfates that are in breads, your sulfate that's in apricots, for example. Like even simple dried apricots, you can have a better choice. So an apricot should be brown, it shouldn't be orange, as an example. So simple tiny swaps like that is easy to make. It's just looking for your sulfate numbers, which are like 220, for example. And if you're looking at your body care products, your simple swaps could be just your hand soap. And all you need is Castile soap and filtered water in a pump bottle. And that's it. And you don't need the green coloured hand soap that's downtown.
Yeah.
Or even something simple as like your fabric softener, not to use fabric softener on your clothing because of the fragrance in it, but to like it can be simple as a lot of people use vinegar and lemon, but I actually use magnesium salt and I just put my essential oil bottles in it, empty it out into it, have a great big jar of it, and put a tablespoon of that into my washing, and it makes your clothes soft, your towels really soft, and you get the smell from the essential oils that you're using.
Oh, and that's something that I'm bad. I do use look, no good or bad, but I do use, the
No.
washing powder I probably shouldn't. So what do you use? Like Epsom salts?
Yeah, yep. So just get a container of Epsom salt or magnesium salt.
Yeah.
I use a lot of essential oils. So when my oil bottle is empty, I just put that into the container of magnesium salt or Epsom salt, and then that gives the smell. And then I just use a tablespoon of that into my barrel of washing.
And that's okay for your washing machine? It seems to be fine?
Yeah, yep. Yeah, we bath in magnesium. Magnesium is perfect for relaxation, calming, detoxing. Actually, that's another thing, because magnesium is good for kids to detox from having something that they may react to as well.
So you look at that. I do have a lot of mums listening to this podcast. So something that you just mentioned that I know a lot of them will be like, oh, I don't really know why. I don't really know what that means. When you said try and limit the colorings in your kids' foods. So you mentioned Smarties. What's some other, I guess kids have roll-ups.
Well,
what are other examples?
Super Doopers.
Why? Why should we?
And that is a hard one.
Yeah. And why should parents look at decreasing coloured foods for their kids?
Mainly because the colours actually, a lot of the colours cause hyperactivity in children, and it's heavily linked to hyperactivity. There's multiple studies, learning difficulties, you have tantrums, asthma is another one. Even some foods are around like hay fever can like cause hay fever in children if they have that as well. So the big ones in your coloured foods, because they're artificial colours, they're made in a lab. They're not designed for our bodies to take, unfortunately. And our little kids are smaller than us and react heavily to different foods. And another thing to consider is the foods are tested in isolation, not together. So they don't do a cross to say, if you have this ingredient, and then if you combine it with this ingredient through the day, what is your reaction? There's none of that. And the additives or ingredients are tested on adults and not on children as well. So
yeah, but I also think it would be interesting to allow the kids for them to understand, how does it make you feel when you eat this? And how does it make you feel when you want this? Because they will want the ice cream, they will want the lollies, and they will get that when they're at someone else's house. So it's just educating them to make better choices. They're smart enough, they know, and they know if they get a sore tummy or they
like to be educated as well. They like to know this information, children do. And my children are, like, I have to say, they are good now. If they go to someone's house and they are offered a super duper, they'll say, oh no, thank you, my body doesn't react well to that. And they're open with it. And another thing is we do for schooling, because school is a big thing for giving out lollies, giving out super dupers. If you're a good person, you get a treat at school. And so what we do is we take a special box to school, and that special box could have like a Frodo frog in it, or it could have a notepad or a pen or something. So when a gift is given out at school for being good, then our kids go to their special box and they're allowed to get one of those treats out. So then they don't feel like they are missing out. And that's good, because it's funny, a lot of children now want my kids' special box instead of the lollies that they're actually getting at school.
I love that. And I actually I find it interesting at schools they still do that, because I would think with all the allergies and stuff now, and also the bans on the cafeterias or the tuck shops, or what kids aren't allowed to take peanut butter, they're look almost like parents get lunchbox shaming because their kids' food isn't healthy enough, and the teachers, like, I'm just surprised that schools still hand out lollies. But also, anyone listening to this that doesn't know what a super duper is, I don't know if it's an Australian thing, but it's a long skinny ice block that's obviously got heaps of flavoring, and like Coca-Cola, strawberry, lime. I had some not too long ago. Like in my freezer, orange, lime, like they're pretty good. But obviously Australia gets really, really hot. And so I'd imagine like that's such a, that's why they're cheap. they're easy to give to your kids when they want to cool down? Like, I can understand why they have them.
Yes, I guess if you're not familiar with the ingredients, you could understand why they're given out, but now I know what's in them. I don't understand why they're given out.
What's in them?
So basically, like, for example, it has on the back of the packet, and I've actually got a post on Super Dupers on my social page, like a full post about what the ingredients are. But on the back of the packet, I'm just reading it now, so it has number 133, which it states that it's raspberry. 133 isn't raspberry. 133 is a color called brilliant blue. So this is actually it's linked to cancer and hyperactivity in children. Then another one is it's advertised as tropical, but it's the number 110, which is sunset yellow. Yet again, so of the probably 6 artificial colors that I personally don't let my children have, this has all of them in it. But they just reword the name to make it sound good. So it says that it's what else? Oh, blackcurrant. It says that it's got blackcurrant in it. It doesn't have blackcurrant in it, unfortunately. It has a color that looks like blackcurrant, but it's not blackcurrant.
Yeah.
So definitely have a look at my post, because Super Dupers is a big one when it comes to parents of it's hard to explain because they say, well, what else can I give my child? And it's like, well, we have lemonade icy poles, like lemonade ice blocks that you could just give instead. They are a little bit more expensive, but your child isn't going to react.
Yeah. Well, this is all about.
And another thing to consider is children actually can take up to 72 hours to react to something. So you mightn't have that direct effect right then when they have it. It might be 72 hours later. And that's a hard one to crack down on.
That's really hard, but also it just affects their behavior. It affects how they learn. It affects their sleep. So many kids have behavioral, they really struggle to communicate, and they really struggle to regulate their emotions and all sorts of things that are happening in today's world. So if you can give them a bit more of a chance and get them in on it too. And like your kids say, oh, no, sorry. It's not like, oh, sorry, we don't eat that, or that's bad. They just say, no, actually doesn't agree with me.
Yeah.
Really love.
And it is like, I actually feel sorry when the Super Dupers are handed out at school. I feel sorry, first of all, for that poor child, because they shouldn't have to react to anything at all. Then I feel sorry for the teachers. Like, the teachers have to then teach. But the worst thing is the poor mums and dads are then dealing with it at home. And that's what it comes down to. Like, we're doing the best we can as parents, and you've got to deal with extras, and that's what I feel sorry for, because it's like, it's not necessary.
Yeah, it's not. What's with both of your kids or each child individually, what's something that you've really noticed by watching what they eat? Like, what's something in their behavior or their, like, obviously their asthma and their eczema? Like, what have you noticed?
Well, I am blessed in a way, because I started this really early. So they were quite young when I started swapping. But as an example, Chinese food. So we still go out for dinner. Like, we go to birthday parties. We do everything that everybody else does, and you can still do it. But Chinese food is heavily coated with MSG. So that's another thing that can have effect on behavioural issues. But not only that, our kids react to it in that they will have night terrors, or some kids wet the bed from having it. Some children do. So that's something to consider. So it's not always about behavioural issues or anything. there's the night terrors that poor little kids have as well. Or, yeah, so that's one thing that I noticed with our children, in that if they have Chinese food, it's a big thing. But I'm lucky. Our kids don't have anything that's flavored.
Do they feel
So
like that? Do they ever feel like they're missing out?
no, because if they come home and say, "Hey, mum, such and such has this at school, are we allowed to have it?" I will go and actually find an alternative for it, and I will look and search high and low until I get that. And 9 times out of the 10, I can find it downtown. Like there is a swap for nearly everything. I don't think I've found one item that I haven't been able to swap yet. And to be honest, most of the time the kids at school actually want our children's food.
So what do you send? I'm just curious to know, like, what's a common thing that I mean, making lunches every day must be like, it's hard for every parent. What do you put in their lunch boxes every day?
So I do bake, but I don't bake a lot. Like my baking is so simple. Like a butter cake, which can turn into cupcakes, like 25 cupcakes, is 5 ingredients, for example. So they take a cupcake with icing on top. You can get sprinkles. You can get good sprinkles from Coles. Like there's a Coles brand of sprinkles that you can get. That's no worries at all. There's another brand that I wouldn't touch, for example. So the kids will still have a cupcake with sprinkles on top at school. A lot of popcorn, a lot of fruit and veggies, and that comes in time. Like that is a big effort to get a child to change, but it does happen. And for lunch, like it can be as simple as like a boiled egg, a preservative-free sausage, a little bit of lettuce, and grated cheese and carrot, and that's it. Or lots of wraps. Like you can get like I think it's called mountain wraps.
Yep.
Yeah. So just that with a little bit of cheese, carrot, and lettuce, and that's all they take. Or ham and cheese scrolls. I can make a batch of ham and cheese scrolls in the morning before we get ready for school, and then they take it hot for lunch.
Yeah, see, what's one thing or a couple of things you've noticed, obviously, with this lifestyle?
Oh, the biggest thing is people's reaction. Or people's reaction and I don't blame them. People do get nervous. If our kids go to a birthday party, they're like, "Oh my God, what are they going to eat?" It's like they can have the sea salt chips. Like you can have sea salt chips. You can have a fruit platter. You can have popcorn. Just not microwave popcorn, for example. Just, I think it's Cobb's popcorn.
Yep.
Yeah, and they come in packets, so they can have packets. So it's just more people's reaction to me, and the whole scenario where your kids are missing out. It's like, I don't think that they are.
How do you deal with that?
Depending on how I've been approached by it, because sometimes it actually can be hurtful when people say that, because I don't judge anybody else. Like, I don't judge another family for what they eat. And I hope my family doesn't get judged by what we eat. But sometimes I say, well, I know I have said it. It is sad that my kids are missing out, because my kids get sick, but they're not sick for very long. So we don't go to the doctors. We don't have appointments. We don't have like itchiness skin and things like that. So if that's what my kids are missing out on, I'm happy with that. And that's how I've had to react sometimes, because people can make you feel like you are not being kind to your children.
Yep, exactly. With you taking all these additives out and eating the way you do as a family, as an adult, what have you noticed within yourself? Do you feel you sleep better? Like, I'd just love to hear from you. Like, what have you noticed?
Yep.
Within yourself?
So I know, like, I honestly notice that our kids are happy all the time, and I get told constantly, like, they're so full, like they come and have conversations with adults, and they like join in, they're happy. Yes, they fight. God, children fight, adults fight, everybody fights. Like, I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that we don't eat non-additive food. We do. Like, trust me, we do, but there is a standard that I will go to. Um, yeah, our kids sleep. Like our eldest child, my God, she did not sleep until she was 2. Like, I mean, did not sleep at all. But now, like, our kids go to bed, they sleep, they're happy, their their skins are perfect. So, and I do notice if I eat something, like even as simple as a Scotch finger biscuit, for example, we have those. They have got vegetable oil in it. Vegetable oil can be inflammatory to our bodies because of the process it goes through. And I notice that if I have, like, say, 3 of those with my coffee, I will feel bloated afterwards. But I still eat it. Like, I still have it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's I have this story that I share with people sometimes if I work with them on a nutritional basis when they see me. My great grandfather, God, and this was like, I don't know if he was my great grandfather. We're probably talking in the 1940s, I don't know, 30s, even earlier. He was back then a marathon runner, and he would only eat, my mum would tell me that he would only eat like seeded bread. He'd only, like, back then, he was just like this ultra health nut. And he died of a brain hemorrhage when he was out running, like when he was really young. And it always stuck with me because I always remember my mum saying, see, that's what happens when you live too healthy. So you can't, and that stuck with me for a reason. Like, I don't want people to hear this and think you have to be perfect, or like, life is for living. And sometimes I do believe, in all honesty, your time is your time too. It's yes, there's a difference between, and this is what people come around with. Oh, well, we live longer now. So yes, the food is maybe filled with a few more things, but you know what? We live longer. And it's like, yes, we do. But there's a difference between living longer and then feeling healthy. Like, I just need to go to the chemist and I stand in line to get some of my bioceutical supplements. Like, and this is not for everyone. I'm just saying my own personal thing. I take some vitamin D. And so I'll go and get that, and I'll stand in line, and I'm standing next to people of all different ages with the little plastic box filled with medications. And I always say, I don't ever want to be that person, just because I want to live a life that I can, not have to take all that. It's just so interesting that people live longer, but then you look at the quality of their life and you look at what they're taking.
Yes.
When they can educate themselves, that can all be taken away.
That quality isn't there. And I only had that discussion recently. It's like, I actually want a quality of life. I don't want to live a long life at all.
No. Yeah, I don't want to live till I'm 100.
And the food matters, actually, that was another one that went aha in food matters when we were studying, is their blue zones. How the blue zones of the people of the tribes or the areas around the world that don't have anything besides your natural foods, they are fit and healthy at 100.
Yeah. Can you explain what the blue zones are for anyone that doesn't really know what that is?
So they did. Was it a study, or was it just a guy? I think, wasn't he, that he went around just to find out, like, where in this world do we have people that can potentially live to 100 and be healthy at 100, but what are they doing for that to be achieved? And so he went and found, oh, I can't remember now. Now you're testing my memory. 5 or 6 I can't even remember, areas that lived off the land, didn't even know. I think one of the blue zones didn't even know what, like, eczema or asthma, for example, was. Like there was something that they didn't even know that a symptom was around because they just don't have it
No
at
diabetes,
all.
no heart disease.
Yeah.
And also in Japan, I want to say there was something about, and now this is off the top of my head, in Japan, their rates of breast cancer are so low because of how they eat and their lifestyle and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I found really interesting because it's like it can be achievable. We can do it.
Mm.
And it's the same thing. I get a bit frustrated that food is labeled organic, like because it shouldn't have a label, like because processed food isn't labeled heavily chemicaled, heavily processed, but we label natural food as organic. It's like, why? It's just normal food.
Yeah, yeah. And we talk about like the dirty dozen. If anyone doesn't know what that is, and that's a form of like when you really are trying to be cost effective, there are actually some fruits and vegetables that you don't need to eat organic, and there are some that are preferred. But at the end of the day, if you don't, you don't. But there's different guidelines, and people just don't know about them.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so there's definitely the dirty dozen are ones that if you can't get them organic, just at least wash them.
Mm.
Wash them in bicarb soda and a little bit of lemon, just to help reduce the intake of chemicals.
Mm. I'm going to put you on the spot here because you don't know that I'm going to get this question. Uh,
Thank you.
what's your intake on water?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's
So we
yeah.
So what, and like I was saying, like it isn't just additives and chemical, like and low tox products. It's everything, isn't it? Like it's meditating, it's reducing the stress. It's the water that we're having now, and that's another thing that we can talk about. Yes, I filter our water. I won't allow our kids to drink tap water. It's a personal thing that I won't allow to happen. And I would love an in-house water system, but we just don't have it. And just even simple things, it's just not even water that we drink. It's the water that we're showering in as well is drying out our skin. So yes, water is another one. And then you can go into like fluoride, you can go into lots and lots and lots of different things that you could talk about.
Yep.
But it is just like if mums are listening out there, like honestly, I truly believe we do know best. Like, or not only that, but just any human, if you know what's best for you, you know what works for you. And if you don't think it's right, start asking. Like ask the questions, ask around. Like Google isn't the best thing, but sometimes it's a good start just to start looking and investigating yourself, and it's amazing what you'll find.
Yeah, it is. And it can be daunting to start with, but if you just start off slowly, just, you don't need to change everything. Like you said, there are some people that will change everything, but it's just living your life, what's good for you. Don't worry about what someone else is doing or all the other mums are doing, or everyone else is fasting, so I should be doing this, or I should be cutting this out. Worry about yourself and get to know
Yeah.
your body, because the kicker is once you understand how your body works and what foods are good for you and how your digestion works, and you get your sleep routine, in about 7 to 10 years, guess what? Your whole body's going to change. So at the moment, I can't eat cinnamon and tomatoes, but probably in 10 years' time, I reckon if I have some tomatoes and cinnamon, I might be all right, because our bodies are constantly changing. And that's what I want people to be. I mean, that's the best thing is once you're the boss of yourself, it's process of elimination. And even if you are high on histamines like I am, there's a list, and you can email me or ask me for it. There's a histamine list that shows you, and it's kind of gut wrenching at first, all the foods that have histamines in them and then the foods that don't. And it is like, oh, and it's like, oh, there's not much, but it's really good to clean yourself up, and then you can slowly introduce the things into
Yeah.
it. But again, I cannot speak enough of this is don't be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. This is educating you for your family and for your children to know what is best for yourself.
Yep. Because you know what you want to do. You know what is best to put in, on, and around your body. We're just providing the information for you to make that judgment call.
Mm.
But trust yourself, because 100% you know best.
Yeah.
Nobody else does.
Yeah, you do.
And and I get it all the time. I get judgment constantly. But I'm happy with that, because
How do
I
you
know
get judged?
pardon?
How do you get judged? Do people just go, oh, you don't eat real food, or you're so picky? I don't know. What are some things that people say to you?
Oh yeah, that's right, your kids aren't allowed that. It's like, no, they're not actually. And I don't want them to have that. No. Or they will talk to you, but you know that they avoid certain subjects. Like grounding, for example, like as simple as going outside and taking your shoes off and walking on the ground and getting that natural sunlight in the morning. Like our kids are, honestly, because the weather's beautiful, I send them outside before breakfast. Get outside, run around. Like do something on your bike, literally for 5 minutes. But that 5 minutes of morning sun will help their sleep in the afternoon. So it is simple little things. We all know it. Like honestly, deep down, we all know it. And it's just implementing it and being strong enough to be able to do it.
That's right. Thank you. It's being strong enough. And the thing is, in my years, I've always come back to this. So I've eaten like this. I have two speeds: eat really well, like for my body, eat the right foods, or I go right down the other end and live in takeaway world. So I swing between this extreme and this extreme, but the majority of the time when I'm in like eating foods that are right for me, I've been doing this since I've been 18. So way before anyone used to do it, because the sport bodybuilding I used to do was just meat and vegetables and all that kind of stuff. And the amount of times I've had to have a thick skin of people going past with a sausage or a barbecue. This was before I knew what was in sausages, mind you. Oh, have this. Oh, you're weird. You don't eat. And this is so many years I'm talking about people baiting me, leaving things on my desk. Oh, you can't have that. Oh, you're weird. Or, oh, do you want this?
Yeah.
And I'd walk into rooms and I'd hear people talking about me. I'd be in the toilet and I'd hear people over here, oh, she's weird. Or, gosh, she needs to live her life. Or there's nothing wrong with this. And the amount of, not hate, but the amount of backlash I've had for so many years has given me a thick skin to be like, people would come around and open my fridge and they'll be like, oh, that's right, you eat weird food. And I'll be like, yeah. So it's interesting that when you do take this journey, you make other people. And now as a counselor, oh, I didn't realize that was projection. I didn't realize it all those times. And I was in tears many times of going, well, maybe I should just pack this in, or maybe I should just eat like everyone else and be like everyone else. But touch wood, I'm really proud. I don't want to jinx myself here. Touch wood. I'm really proud to say in my how old am I? In my 43 years of life, I've never had any gut issues at all, right? And if there's something that's happening, I will do my best to figure it out. And I'm so proud of myself with, I came from a family that we would eat, oh my God, frozen. My mum couldn't cook. And that's why if I was ever to have children or maybe meet someone with children, I'm so excited to be able to like cook everything from scratch or make big family meals, because I was served frozen pizza and frozen fish fingers and stuff. And used to eat that. And I would never eat, I ate no vegetables as a kid. I ate, would you believe, the first time I had sweet potato and pumpkin was when I was 24.
Oh, really?
Because we never had it in the house.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just such a joy to even have sweet potato or pumpkin. I can't eat pumpkin right now, but it's exciting. So even when you do educate yourself and you try to make these choices, it's a shitty world that we live in sometimes, because your family, your friends, your work colleagues, people around you will go, oh, you're eating that.
Yeah.
Or, and that's a really hard thing. And I've had years, I would say, oh my God, probably 20 years of working in the health and fitness industry and being around it, that I've had 20 years, and only now I'm like, yeah, whatever. But it took me a really long time, because people are horrible and they're so nasty. And it can even be done at a school drop-off or pickup, when people give you the side eye and like, people can't see what I'm doing, but it's that whole, oh, I'm better than you and we can eat whatever, and you're the weird ones because you don't eat how we eat.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you do have to be strong, and you just have to know that you're doing the best for you. The same as that family is doing the best for their family that they know, because it is all education. But and people sometimes are scared to talk to me about it because they think I'm going to judge. Like, honestly, I care what people eat, but I don't care. It's like, if that's what you choose, go for it. Go for it. So it's education. And then it gets hard, because if you've got any parents listening out there that has teenage girls that go through the change of wanting makeup and all the body care products that are out there and that are messing with their poor little hormones, like, that's just another level that you've got to go to. So you've got to deal with food that you don't want them to eat, but everyone else is eating. And then you've got to deal with that they can't have the latest makeup or they can't have the latest perfume, because they're two things that I would not let our children have at all. So it is hard, but that's life. It's challenging.
Yep, but it's educating, because kids are going to do what they're going to do to a point, but also educating them when they go to Kmart and they have the candles and they have the diffusers and whatever. There's a reason why they're $3,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes. And there's a reason why that lipstick is only $1.50.
Look, I know.
And there's a reason why that the IVF clinics won't allow you to have perfume on in IVF clinics. Like, that was another one that really got me. Ah, right.
And there's a reason why so many people have to do IVF. It's so sad. But anyway, on a positive note, it is something that once you've got your health, no one can take that away from you. And educating yourself, I think, is just such a amazing way. So thank you so much for just sharing your story with us today, and for sharing the good, the bad, and how you've navigated this lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. So if anyone's listening to this and they actually want to connect with you, or read your post on Super Duper or the ice blocks, or find out anything more, where can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram page is Em.proved. So I like to improve what I'm doing to my body, and my name is Emma, so that's why I'm Em.proved. And so, yeah, definitely join me at Instagram, where everybody else seems to meet. And I do have actually a few PDFs that, if anybody would like to reach out on my Instagram page and let me know that you're listening to this podcast, that I will send the PDFs to you. And it's just quick, simple. This is the food the ingredients that I like to avoid and why. And this is the body care ingredients that I like to avoid and why. So it's just 2 documents that just may help you transition to going additive or low tox as well.
Yeah, perfect. And I can see you're diffusing an oil. What have you got today? What are you diffusing?
So rosemary oil is perfect for memory and concentration. So I've got rosemary in there. I've got adaptive, which is they call it the mental health blend. So it just helps with your emotions to calm you down. And there's another blend. It's a new blend for EMF. That's another thing that you could talk about, isn't it? EMFs. So it's I've got those 3 oils in here at the moment.
Cool. Before we go, maybe a teaser for our next episode together. What is EMF?
Electronic magnetic fields. So that's your Wi-Fi. Most people know it as your Wi-Fi in the home. So it's the rays that you get from any device, microwaves, 5G towers, anything like that. That yet again is affecting our bodies. So then you could talk about mold. You could talk of mold's another thing that affects your body that isn't really good.
Yeah, and the new car smell, which I was so ripped off to. I've had quite a few new company cars in my life, and I have sniffed those up because I'm such a smell person. It's funny, but it's not funny. But yeah, I've had plenty of new cars in my life, and I've been driving around and smelling that beautiful smell, only to realize that, wow, that wasn't good. That wasn't the best for me. But hey, I've done things that I'm not perfect, and I'll never ever will say I've done things and tried things that are, it's like people health influencers that only portrayed themselves as being low tox lifestyle and green juices and stuff, and then they snort cocaine in the weekend and do all sorts of things. So you never really know what goes on in the background of people's lives. Not that I'm saying I do it, but I'm just saying that you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah, and no one's perfect, but what is perfect? Like, I don't know how you can justify what perfect is, because my perfect to your perfect is completely different.
Yeah. So people strive for it. People strive for perfection, and it's like they spend their whole lives striving for perfection, and it just is debilitating. It's just really horrible.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yes, definitely reach out, and I'll send the document to you. But there's so much information out there. There's so many great people, like Food Matters, for example. Listen to their podcast as well. Yourself, just to start off with, like doing the podcast, and the guests that you've had on have been amazing, like absolutely amazing. And just you bringing the awareness to your audience about the nutrition, about health and mindset and everything else. Like there's so much information out there that can really help.
Yeah, and you don't have to pay a fortune for it either. But thank you so much for your kind words. And it's so, I just feel like we've just connected even more. The fact that we've actually done the same course, and I'm known for it. Most people research their guests and do all this stuff. I tend to not to, because then I get to know you as we're recording this. So that's what I mean. I'm such a green podcaster, and I'm always going to be like this. I'm not going to change it up. It works. I like how it is, but I loved learning that about you today, that we did the same nutritional course. So that's pretty cool. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll put all your links in the bio. And I know that you and I are going to get together, and we're going to talk about something else on another episode sometime soon.
Oh, that would be lovely, because there's so much to talk about, isn't there? So much. But thank you. It's been great.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I hope this conversation has added value to your self-care journey and inspired positive changes in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a friend who might benefit from this episode. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on future episodes. Your support means the world to me. I genuinely love hearing from you, so please take a moment to leave a review. Let me know which part of today's episode resonated with you the most. Your feedback guides the direction of this podcast, and I really appreciate each and every single one of you for being a part of this community. To fall in love with yourself is the first secret to happiness. To find out a bit more about the Studio Chat podcast, head over to my Instagram page, Studio Chat Podcast, or if you want to find out a bit more about my counselling private practice, head over to Instagram on self_care_studio, or head over to my website, selfcarebybarbarathomson.com.au. I'm really looking forward to seeing you on the next episode. Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep embracing the journey of self-discovery.